A's Talk Radio.
KDWN News Time, 9 o'clock. For 20 years, Brian Alo and Associates have helped Las Vegas locals protect against foreclosure and file Chapter 7 and 13 bankruptcy. If you're in trouble, call 259-0002. Good morning. I'm John Schaefer with this hour's top stories. A Nevada assemblywoman is trying to make it legal for concealed carry permit holders to carry their firearms on the state's college campuses. Republican Las Vegas assemblywoman Michelle Fiore on the Alan Stock Show this morning said people with concealed weapons permits are not the ones committing mass shootings.
None of these mass shootings, none of these shootings done by these individuals had a concealed weapons permit. The only common denominator with the individuals that have done these shootings are the medication that they're on. They're literally mentally ill.
The bill allows concealed permit holders to carry on Nevada higher education campuses, except for at campus sporting events with a seating capacity of 1,000 or more. Authorities have arrested a 58-year-old Nye County man suspected of fatally shooting another man over the weekend. Nye County deputies say they responded Sunday afternoon to Tamarack Road and found John Sprague with a gunshot wound to the abdomen. Sprague died of the wound on the way to the hospital. Deputies arrested Avery Church on suspicion of murder and 9 counts of assault. No one was injured when a small plane made a hard landing yesterday afternoon at the Henderson Executive Airport. The plane landed without the proper landing gear in place. The 2 people on board were able to walk away from that plane. Police in the Southern California city of Tustin say at least 3 people are dead and others wounded after a chaotic 25-minute shooting rampage that moved from local streets to a freeway. Police say there are several crime scenes and many questions as authorities work to determine if the shootings were connected. They are believed to have started with a fatal carjacking. 2 other victims are confirmed dead in Tustin. Police say the shooter then took his own life. Then they say there might be more victims. A Coast Guard official said Monday that a leak in a fuel oil return line caused the fire that disabled the Carnival Triumph in the Gulf of Mexico, leaving 4,200 people without power or working toilets for 5 days.
Some of that fuel on that line leaked, touched a hot surface, and unfortunately started a fire.
Coast Guard spokesman Carlos Diaz says they will now try to learn more about the cause, the crew's response, and why the ship was disabled for so long. The Financial Report brought to you by Las Vegas jewelry and coin buyers. On Wall Street, the Dow's up 57 points. Gold is at $16.03 an ounce. Silver, $29.39. Platinum, $16.85. And palladium, $762.50. For questions about your precious metal or coins, call 547-1670. The news brought to you by Starbucks via between the snooze button in the shower or crunch time and meeting time. With Starbucks via, there's always time for Starbucks. Just add hot water, stir, and enjoy. Look for Starbucks via where you buy groceries. It's 9:02. Here's Mitch Kelly with the latest from the KDON 1 Nevada Credit Union Traffic Center.
This report brought to you by Garmin. Hey, traffic, don't be a hater. Get a Garmin Newbie with subscription-free HD digital traffic and avoid it with updates as often as every 30 seconds. Drive with Garmin, the most trusted name in GPS. Got a new injury accident along the Southern Beltway. Going to find a 215 eastbound at the 15 South connectors. Cameras unfortunately down in the area, so we can't get a good look at it, but it is an accident with injuries, so watch for lanes blocked as you approach. Again, that 215 eastbound at the 15 connectors along the Southern Beltway. Newest Service Street wreck is in the northwest, eastbound Cheyenne past Tenaya. West side accident, Charleston west of I-215. Also one, Lake Mead at Martin Luther King. From the KDON 1 Nevada Credit Union Traffic Center, it's Mitch Kelly on News Talk 720. KDWN.
The KDWN forecast, partly cloudy, 64 the high today, clouds, chance of showers late, 44 overnight, cloudy, morning showers possible, just 56 for Wednesday. Right now, cloudy, 53 in Las Vegas. Your next update at 9:30 or when news breaks, and we're always streaming online at KDWN.com. Brought to you by Brian Alo and Associates. I'm John Schaefer, News Talk 720, KDWN.
Hi, everybody. Ray Lucia here. You know, we invite Lynn Rowe, certified financial planner, to come on the show and remind people just how critical long-term care insurance can be. Most standard insurance policies don't provide protection for long-term care, yet studies show that more than 40% of men and nearly 3/4 of women today will need some form of long-term care. Those costs could run into the hundreds of thousands of dollars. I want you to visit Lynn Rowe's website, iwantmyltc.com. That's LTC as in long-term care. iwantmyltc.com. Lynn will help you with a quote and send you a free consumer guide published by the American Association for Long-Term Care Insurance. You'll learn the importance of planning for your long-term care or your spouse's, and you can review a long-term care checklist and learn about savings you may qualify for if you're currently in good health. Go to iwantmyltc.com or call Lynn Rowe personally for a complimentary consultation, 800-644-1128. That's 800-644-1128.
More live local talk than any station in Las Vegas. News Talk 720 KDWN. 50,000 watts of news and talk. Be in the know when you're on the go. News Talk 720 KDWN is available wherever you are online at KDWN.com. At KDWN.com. Local, national, and international news, plus weather and traffic, all at your fingertips, all online at KDWN.com.
When it comes to bullying, don't validate, eliminate. Adults have the power to stop bullying in our schools. I'm Dennis Van Rokel, president of the National Education Association. It's up to us as educators, as parents, as adults, to stand up on behalf of bullied kids. Help us create safe, bully-free learning environments for all students. One caring adult can make all the difference. Be that adult and take the pledge at NEA.org/bully-free.
A message from the National Education Association.
KDWN is now available in more places than ever. Streaming live at KDWN.com on your iPhone or Android with the iRadio Now app and the TuneIn app available on any smartphone or tablet. More info at KDWN.com. The broadcast of information on this show does not create an attorney-client relationship with any of the listeners. Communication between the listener and the hosts of this show will not be confidential. The information provided on this show is prepared for a general audience without investigation into the facts of each particular case and is not to be considered legal advice. The information provided on this show should not be used as a substitute for legal advice. The listener is advised to consult with a qualified attorney on any legal issue they may have. It's time for News Talk 720 KDWN's Legal Hour. Have a legal question? Call now 257-KDWN. That's 257-5396.
Good morning, KDWN News Time 9:06. Welcome to the KDWN Legal Hour Tuesday edition. It is Tuesday. I'm confused about the days of the week after having the holiday yesterday. The other voice you hear is attorney Irene Williamson from the Williamson Law Office. She's here with us each and every Tuesday morning discussing a variety of legal topics. And today, a very interesting topic, and I think something that affects everybody because I don't think a lot of people understand what the rules or the laws are that apply to this. We're going to be discussing defamation on the internet.
Exactly. Good morning, John. It's great to be here again. I'm actually very excited to talk about this today, mainly because it's such a timely topic, for one. And number two, it's such a prevalent problem, especially for me in the last 2 years. I have a lot of clients coming in with problems of internet defamation and what to do with it. So if you have any questions or if you want to have a private conversation with me instead, 608-4072 or info@wlawoffice.com.
And if you'd like to reach Irene here in the studio, 257-5396. Irene, there's Facebook, we have Twitter, people can write blogs. Basically, even Wikipedia really isn't necessarily the whole truth about everything because anybody can write whatever they want on the internet these days. So what exactly is defamation and how does it apply to what can be put on the internet?
You know, I've always thought about truth as truth equivalent to internet as very, very vague area. But basically, people, I think, have a different idea of what internet defamation is as far as, or in comparison to traditional defamation. It's basically the same. And in most jurisdictions, it has the same definition. If you have a claim for a defamation or even an internet defamation, you actually have to qualify for the elements of defamation. And number one element is the false and defamatory statement against a person. That's number one. And that's a highly litigated topic because the courts have ruled that if it's a statement of opinion, it could never be defamation. It has to be a statement of fact. And the problem with distinguishing between fact and opinion is what is a fact and what is an opinion. It's funny because 10 years ago, the court came up with a ruling that distinguishing between a fact and opinion, well, is a matter of opinion. So that's really a highly litigated matter. But basically, if it's a defamation, it has to be a statement of fact, which means it has to be a verifiable statement, whether it's true or false. And that's really hard to determine. But one of my examples are, and maybe this is oversimplistic, for example, is John Doe is a felon. Now, felony is something that can be verified. So that, if it's false, can be defamatory. If it's a statement, for example, is John Doe is a loser, then loser is not something that we can verify. It's a matter of opinion. And the courts have time and time again ruled that a matter of opinion is not actionable as a defamation. In fact, there is a case law back in 2002. It's a restaurant case law in Nevada. There was a review against the restaurant, but basically the court said, you know what? Typically, a restaurant review has the nature of being an opinion. And typically, a defamation will not rise on a statement of opinion. But The good thing about that ruling is that the courts did not entirely disregard a statement of opinion. It has to be read in context. They have to look at the context. They have to look at the social context and how it's used or if there's malice behind it. So that's number one, is false and defamatory claim.
So do I, as just a regular person out there, because everyone nowadays, you have to write what you're doing minute by minute online because everybody needs to know what you're doing throughout the entire day. So I go somewhere to eat and the service is terrible. So I write on Facebook, was at such and such a place and the service was terrible. Well, what if they decide they want to come after me?
Well, you know what?
So do I need to be careful of what I'm writing, and everyone be careful these days?
That's, you know what, that is true. And I think the social media has made people careless about what they say online. And that's because, and I'll go to it later, is there's some misconceptions about the web. And that's number one, is that I'm anonymous when I'm on the web. Mm-hmm. Well, that's not true. And I think people, when they're behind a computer, they're behind a desk, they don't necessarily think that there's people monitoring what they say, or they typically don't say things that they would normally say in front of somebody. But reviews typically are not a statement of fact. It depends, again, on the context. The court will look at it. The jury will look at it. But be careful what you say on Facebook, because whatever you say in a social media has the same gravity as if you said it in a newspaper. Because if you compare the two medium, newspaper versus Facebook, basically, in fact, Facebook has more of a impact because it's simultaneous, it's instantaneous, and your friends can read it. Your friends' friends can read it. So be careful what you say. And on the defamation, there's another element that I think people will have to be careful about, is that whether or not the statement is against a private figure and versus a private figure versus a public figure.
Right. Like I could say, oh, I think my senator is a horrible person.
Right. And that could be an opinion. But if it's a statement of fact, if it's a statement against a public figure, it's a much bigger hurdle to prove. Defamation is harder to claim because when you're a public figure, the courts have held that you actually have to have an actual malice to state this defamatory statement. And the question is, what is actual malice? And the courts have been obviously ambiguous in defining it. But basically, if there's a false and reckless statement that you have failed to verify the veracity of the truth, what does that mean? Well, again, that's for the courts to interpret.
Because a lot of times what you're putting out there, you're not doing it maliciously. It's just, again, everyone feels like everybody needs to know everything they're doing, so I'm just putting it out there. Traffic was horrible. Metro should change these lights. What a terrible job they're doing. Yeah, and again, it has to be looked at in a social context and what a reasonable person would deem that statement to be either defamatory or it's just a reckless statement or a statement of opinion. But basically, on a public figure, it's a much higher hurdle in general. If it's a private figure, all you have to do is all the standard that the plaintiff will have to meet is negligence. It's a much lower standard than a private figure. 257-5396, 257-5396. If you have a question or comment for Irene or would like to join in the conversation. So we're discussing defamation. What is defamation per se?
Now, in any defamation, or really in any cause of action, you have to show some damages. Otherwise, what's the point of a litigation? But there's some damages that's involved, either general damages or economic damages. But there are some statements that the court has recognized to be so egregious that the damages are presumed. You don't have to prove damages. So that's defamation per se. And some of the examples of defamation per se is, number one is imputation of a crime. Basically, when you tell somebody that they're a felon or they're a convicted rapist, and if it's not true, then the court deems it as so egregious that the damages are presumed. Another example is if it's an attack on a person's fitness of trade, business, or profession. I actually have one client that came into me in a context of online defamation. Basically, either it was a partnership that got sour, and the partner has basically posted defamatory statements against him as a professional. And that is an effect on his business because if you type his name, sure enough, it will come up number one in Google that he's a scammer or he's a fraud. And obviously, our position is it's not true. So those
it's sad, like that TV commercial where the lady says to the guy, well, I heard it on the internet, and everything's true on the internet.
Exactly. And the sad thing about it is he came to me and say, Irene, do you think that people will believe this? And I told him, unfortunately, people don't know you personally, so they take whatever is in the Google at face value. And that this is why the courts think that damages should be presumed, because it's so damaging. It's so egregious that damages has to be presumed.
All right, we were going to take a break. We'll be back with attorney Irene Williamson discussing more about defamation, the defamation law, and how it applies to the internet and social media. 257-5396 if you'd like to join in the conversation. Right now we're going to check in with Mitch Kelly in the KDON One Nevada Credit Union Traffic Center.
And this report at 9:15 is brought to you by 99 Cents Only Stores. Don't let the flu get to you. Stop by 99 Cents Only Stores and get cold and flu syrup, acetaminophen, and Hall's cough drops for only 99.99 cents each. Save more. Shop 99 Cents Only Stores first for everything. Just one freeway accident. Pretty bad one, though, on the Southern Beltway. 215 eastbound. Approaching the 15 connectors. We've got backups to South Decatur because of that crash. It's an accident with injuries, and that's got some lanes blocked. There was Service Street wreck along westbound Tropicana over I-15. In the northwest, eastbound Cheyenne past Tenaya. West side Charleston west of 215. Also on Lake Mead at Martin Luther King. East side Vegas Valley at Treeline Drive. And along Frank Sinatra Drive behind the Monte Carlo. Your next update's at 9:30. And from the KDON One Nevada Credit Union Traffic Center, I'm Mitch Kelly on News Talk 720 KDWN.
The clock is ticking.
I haven't filed my taxes yet.
I can't afford to pay mine.
But what can they do, really?
The IRS can freeze your bank account, seize your income, and levy fines even greater than your taxes.
Ooh, is that right?
Well, when's the deadline?
Can I file without paying?
Go to Wagner & Associates, 2470 St. Rose Parkway.
Can they do an extension?
Create a payment plan? Can they get us a refund?
Wagner & Associates work hard to get you the largest legal refund. Wagner & Associates, call 564-1040. 564-1040. We speak tax, so you don't have to.
Emerald Island Casino, the jewel of Henderson, Nevada's only all-penny casino where every day is promotion day. We're celebrating our 10th anniversary in 2013. New players receive 25 times and 75 times reward point multipliers. Emerald Island Casino offers 400 of the best and newest penny slot games. Use your reward points at local businesses for anything from car repair to wedding cakes. And while you're here, grab a bite at the Emerald Island Grill, open whenever you're hungry, 24/7. Come see us today.
We have great news. We can now refinance your home no matter how upside down you are. If you're current on your payments, contact us today to see if your loan qualifies. You could potentially lower your rate and monthly payment. Visit us at onenevada.org today or call 827-3880. One Nevada Credit Union, federally insured by the NCUA Equal Opportunity Lender.
Now back to KDWN's Legal Hour. Have a legal question? Call now. 257-KDWN. That's 257-5396.
KDWN News Time, 9:17. Welcome back to the Tuesday edition of the KDON Legal Hour with attorney Irene Williamson from the Williamson Law Office. She can be reached at her office at 608-4072, or you can email her at info@wlawoffice.com. We're discussing internet defamation. So I'm just assuming, because that's what I like to do, that because of the rise of the use of the internet, we're seeing a rise in internet defamation lawsuits?
Oh, definitely, most definitely. In fact, it's a double-edged sword wherein now that you're in, especially for business owners, it's almost, they almost don't have a choice but to put themselves out there in Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn so they can have their brand exposure, which is a great thing on one hand. On the other hand, you have websites like Yelp, which has pros and cons. Pro is that people that has great reviews about your restaurants can post there. In fact, I'm a Yelp user, and I go there before I go to any restaurants or any hotels. I check their pictures, I check their food, see if there's a great reviews. On the other hand, it's a hub for a lot of defamatory, probably false statements. And one of the reasons is, well, we have social media, and immediate access to the internet is one other factor. Mm-hmm. And I can remember I have to have AOL to connect to the internet. It takes me 30 minutes to connect to the internet. But nowadays, you got iPhones or iPads. You can just take a picture, put it on Facebook, and bam, and in a second, you have a review of something or a statement about somebody. And so the immediate access to the internet has provided a forum for all kinds of statements. And for the past years, I have these complaints from clients coming to me about these gripe sites, what I call at least gripe sites, or what attorneys call gripe sites, about one of them is ripoffreport.com, wherein people, on one hand, if it's a true statement, it could be a great positive thing. You can have a complaint against a business and people can review it. On the other hand, I have some clients who came into me and say, I know it's my competitor that has posted those complaints against me on Ripoff Report, which may or may not be true, but certainly it does happen. Another website that I know of is Cheaterville.com. I just heard it last week. I wasn't even aware that such a website exists. But basically, if it's a jilted lover has a complaint against you, they can post something on the internet wherein they can say you're a cheater, and everybody who knows you, or they can basically have a search in there where they can type in your name, and your picture will be there, and all your history of your cheating or alleged cheating history will be there, and that is so damaging for a lot of people.
Is there any difference in the eyes of the law between those sites? Like Cheaterville, you're personally attacking another person, but Yelp, you're just reviewing somebody's business. Although if you were their competitor, you're attacking them as well.
There definitely is. In fact, there is an act I'd like to talk about in more details called the Communication Decency Act. It was passed in 1996. Partly, it was originally passed to protect, pornography and all these solicitatious postings on the internet, but that Section 230 of Communication Decency Act protects third-party internet service providers from actual postings of its users, which makes sense. On one hand, if you're a blogger of a controversial topic, at some point, at some time or the other, some crazy person will post something on your internet that you cannot control, and you'd be glad that you have the Communication Decency Act. But on the other hand, it has been used as a defense by Ripoff Report or Cheaterville.com to say, hey, I'm not responsible for these postings. You have to go to that actual person who posted it for defamation, because we have absolutely no control whatsoever about what they post.
How do we determine what is free speech and what is actually defamation? I mean, we know what we can and can't say on the radio.
Right.
But the government is telling us that, so it is, they're sort of...
Under the FCC, right?
Yeah, they're a little bit curtailing our complete free speech rights, but the government can do that. There are certain things you shouldn't say. But online, who is overseeing that, and who's determining my opinion is free speech or my opinion is defamation?
The answer to that is all the laws. And I'm actually going to go through the misconceptions of online. And one of them is that, my posting in the internet should be protected by First Amendment rights or free speech. And the answer to that is, it's not an absolute right. Obviously, we have defamation laws to curtail, postings that are reckless and false. Obviously, you want to protect, there's a delicate balance between First Amendment rights and the protection of your privacy and your reputation. That's one. And obviously, there's other laws that have been in place to protect copyright infringement, trademark infringement. So you cannot just simply post trade names on the internet without the permission of the person or somebody's likeness online and without their permission. Those are limitations in the First Amendment rights. And just to go over some of the misconceptions in online defamation, and I'd like to talk about anonymity. I think people like to post on the internet with the thought that there will be anonymous. And I think it gives them a little more courage to post something that they will never tell your face, because I will never be found out. But guess what? As attorneys, and we have ways to find out who you are, where you are, what your IP address is. In fact, my firm works with a reputable IT company in town that's what they do is, if the client comes to me with a problem of somebody post anonymously online, how can I serve them? How can I litigate against them? And one of them is, we find out your IP address in conjunction with working with this IT company. We find out your username. And if we can't find out your IP address, we can serve these ISP providers, Google or Yahoo, with a subpoena to release your identity, to release the identity of the username. So there's definitely ways to get around the web anonymity.
Are they cooperative? Companies like Google and those different companies, when you go to them and say, we need this information?
In the first few parts, in the last 5 years, they have not been, but they're certainly slowly getting more cooperative, because I think they were under the impression that the CDR, Communication Decency Act of 1996 actually, has protected them somewhat over the years. But the courts have now recognized, although slowly, and the legislature have now recognized that there needs to be some protection against people that have been defamed online. So even though in the legal arena they may not be liable to the extent that we want them to, they have been cooperative. The courts have been forcing them to at least release the names of these users, especially when there is a finding of defamatory statements. Yes.
And I'm guessing that the internet growth is moving much faster than any sort of legislative growth, trying to keep up with how do we regulate what is going on there.
Exactly. And actually, this Communication Decency Act have been interpreted by courts in different ways, and they have sort of carved out exceptions to it in response to a lot of changes in the internet. And one of them is the Communication Decency Act does not apply if you're a blogger, for example, and there's a posting, a defamatory statement, or initially as a non-defamatory statement, and you make alterations to it that now becomes a defamatory statement, then you're not covered. Or there was one case, I think it was a litigation against Yahoo, wherein initially they're not responsible because they're a third-party internet service provider regarding this post. But basically, one of the workers of that company promised this plaintiff that, you know what, I'll take care of it. I'll remove it. I'll personally, I think the quote was, I'll personally walk it through the division and have it removed. And so the plaintiff kind of relied on that statement. It's called the promissory estoppel, and didn't do anything about it. So that the court said, well, you're not protected anymore because of that promise. And the third one I've seen them carve out, it was a case on roommate.com, I believe. It's kind of like a matchmaking service for roommates. But basically, if you're a roommate, if you are a tenant looking for a roommate, you have to fill out this profile, and you have to fill out your choices of who you want to be as your roommate, whether it's female or male. And they even have choices whether you want it to be a straight male or gay male, or a female without a children. Well, under the Fair Housing Act, that's discrimination. And so the court said, well, because you have forced your users to choose between those drop-down menus, you have basically forced them to make a discriminatory statement. So just by the way the courts have interpreted the CDA, you can kind of tell that they're getting away from the overly broad interpretation of CDA. So you got to be careful, even if you're a third-party ISP.
What about these laws like the CDA? Do only U.S. laws apply to the internet? It's the World Wide Web, after all. I mean, people all around the world are on Facebook and on Twitter and can post anything to my page.
That's really what makes it so complicated. In fact, if you do have an online defamation case, obviously I always advise people to talk to an attorney. I mean, in a regular defamation, you can probably get away with a pro se, but in online defamation, we are talking about a gamut of issues. We're talking about, is there a federal law involved? Is there a copyright infringement? Because in all reality, it's not just defamation, and I'll talk about that in a minute, but there could be other causes of action involved, and it could be either federal or state laws, different states. Actually, if you're a blogger, be careful about what you say to other people in other states, because there's other states that have now enacted statutes that had made defamation to be a felony, online defamation. I think states like Colorado and Montana have made it a felony to release an online defamatory statement with a fine of $100,000 and 18 months in jail. I have never seen that before, but it's in their books. And just because you're in Nevada as a blogger doesn't mean you're immune to it. There's different jurisdictions to think about, so be careful with that.
Yeah, I guess especially since anyone anywhere can access whatever you're writing, you aren't in your own little bubble anymore.
No, definitely not. Especially with, I mean, I guess that's the purpose of a web is to open up the communication across the boundaries, and the boundaries of law is now ever reaching. They're now, the European Union has come along and adopting U.S. laws. Canada or United Kingdom, they have laws in there too. So you think ours might be lenient, but theirs may not be. So be careful if you are making statements about a foreign company, for example.
Okay, so people have made nasty statements about this radio station, and I feel like the station is being defamed. As the person that runs this business, what legal steps can I pursue? Well, except that we need to take a break first. Okay. So that'll even give you time to think about that many-part question that I didn't phrase very well. We will be back with attorney Irene Williamson discussing internet defamation laws right after we check in with news, traffic, and weather on News Talk 720 KDWN.
is that?
Oh, it's my time machine.
Does it work?
Sure, just hit this button.
Whoa, dinosaurs, cool.
Or we can go here.
Hey, that's Napoleon.
Oui.
Or we can go to the future.
Wow, hey, you have this nice house. Do I have a nice house?
No, you didn't save any money, always spent it on vacations and stuff.
If only there was a way I could go back in time and correct that bad habit.
Yep.
Okay, the time machine is not real, but the saving thing is. Get in the habit of putting some of your money in savings each week through a 401k, savings account, or financial investments. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free ideas and easy tips on saving, go to feedthepig.org. That's feedthepig.org.
What does this crazy little button do?
Wait, no!
This message brought to you by the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants and the Ad Council.
50,000 watts of news and talk. News Talk 720 KDWN, Las Vegas. The dawn of today's talk radio.
AP Update. I'm Rita Foley. The president's warning of real consequences if those automatic spending cuts kick in on March 1st.
This is not an abstraction. People will lose their jobs.
Our Jerry Bodlander's at the White House with more on the president's concerns.
The president warned the impending cuts would cost people their jobs, would impact military readiness, and reduce security along the borders. He's urging Republicans to agree to tax hikes as part of the deal to avoid what he called the meat cleaver.
Or would they rather put hundreds of thousands of jobs and our entire economy at risk just to protect a few special interest tax loopholes that benefit only the wealthiest Americans and biggest corporations?
Republicans say the tax hike they agreed to while extending the Bush tax cuts for most Americans is the only one they'll go along with. Jerry Bodlander at the White House.
Congress is not in session this week, and so there won't be any votes before next week. That could complicate any effort to work out a short-term resolution to the problem. I'm Rita Foley.
9:32 in the KDON 1 Nevada Credit Union Traffic Center with an update brought to you by Binion's Gambling Hall. Got a pair of injury accidents on the freeways. The more recent one, 95 northbound between Russell and Tropicana, and one on the Southern Beltway, 215 eastbound at I-15. Again, both those accidents with injuries and lanes blocked. In North Las Vegas, a bad one, and at Camino El Dorado Department on scene. Leftover Rex Lake Mead at Martin Luther King, westbound Tropicana over I-15, eastbound Cheyenne past Tenaya, and Charleston just west of I-215. KDWN weather, a 30% chance of showers later this afternoon and breezy with a high of 64. Currently, it's 51 degrees in Las Vegas, and more of the KDON Legal Hour with attorney Irene Williamson's coming up. From the KDON 1 Nevada Credit Union Traffic Center, Mitch Kelly, News Talk 720, KDWN.
Rediscover downtown Vegas at Top of Binion Steakhouse. Now open at 5 p.m. so you can start your night early with a great meal and fabulous skyline views from Binion's 24th floor. Binion's, good food, good whiskey, good gamble.
Are you missing one or more teeth and wondering, what are my options? Or do you wear dentures and wish for a more permanent solution? Then this message is for you. Dr. Matashmi of Albright Dental invites you to a free dental implant seminar, 5:30 p.m. Wednesday, February 27th. Dr. Matashmi will share with you the many options available today, including implant-supported dentures or partials and single-tooth replacement implants. All seminar attendees qualify for free sedation with their implant procedure. RSVP today. Call 714-0998, 714-0998.
First Option Mortgage, the people you call first.
Time is running out. Insurance rates on many government-backed loans are going up in just a few weeks. These increases will cost some homeowners tens of thousands of dollars over the life of the loan. Call First Option Mortgage today and lock in before the higher rates take effect. There are no application fees, and since First Option approves their own loans, you'll close fast and be assured of beating the deadline. Please don't wait. With mortgage rates still in the threes and insurance rates going up soon, the time to call First Option Mortgage is now. First Option Mortgage, 669-5400. 669-5400.
First Option Mortgage, the people you call.
1269. You have a foreclosure or a short sale on your credit. We can fix that now. You've got an IRS tax lien, a judgment, a repo on your credit. We can fix that now. At Credit Restoration in Nevada, all we do is fix credit. We're the foreclosure and short sale removal specialist. Don't live with bad credit for 7 years. Pick up the phone and call us. We'll fix your credit now, or you don't pay. Credit Restoration of Nevada, 778-2000 or online at LasVegasCreditRepair.com. Let us remove your short sale or foreclosure now.
Now back to KDWN's Legal Hour. Have a legal question? Call now. 257-KDWN. That's 257-5396.
KDWN News Time 9:35. Welcome back to the Tuesday edition of the KDWN Legal Hour with Las Vegas attorney Irene Williamson from the Williamson Law Office. 257-5396. If you have a question or comment for Irene, we're discussing internet defamation and the defamation law here in Nevada today. It's basically it's a relatively new, in the grander scheme of things, new laws that are popping up dealing with this.
Definitely. It's a very new area of law, and I've just seen this come up in the last 2 years. And that's the reason why I want to talk about this today, is because actually in the last 2 months, I've had probably 5 clients come to me with an internet defamation. And it's certainly become a problem, and they don't really know what to do once it comes, once it becomes a part of their problem.
Right.
And one of the clients I have is that I have an ex-boyfriend who posted kind of, nude pictures of me, frankly, on Google. And what do I do with it? How do I take it off? And the answer to that is, well, you have to take some steps first. First of all, the main goal is to remove it. And the litigation is probably the second step. But first of all, as when I counsel clients, I tell them the necessary steps to take. And number one is, to the extent possible, identify who posted it. Now, in some instances, that might be easy. It could be your ex-boyfriend or a husband or a friend. That's easy to do. But in a business context, that might not be so easy to do, especially when there's so many reviews, or, for example, in a setting of Yelp, there's so many people you cannot identify. But there are ways to do that, either through their domain names or registration on the domain names. Either one of the ways to identify a poster is either to come to me as an attorney and we can subpoena either the website or work with an IT company to create a sort of a cyber investigation services, and we can pull those IP addresses out, locate them, and kind of narrow down who posted that particular comment.
And as you said, the first main goal is to get something like that removed. But that's great. You get it removed, but it takes time. And in that time, whatever someone said about you or however they defamed you or these pictures, it's out there.
Exactly. And the damage most likely has already been occurred. And you cannot forget it, especially for some, as an example that I've already stated. In fact, by the time it got released, that particular client of mine, her employee or employer, I should say, have already seen it. So if you type her name, it will come up. The worst part of it is it's a video, which makes it even more egregious. So it's already done. But obviously, the first thing to do is to remove it. And number one is identify who posted it. Number two is let's find ways to remove it, either through legal means, as is my particular specialty, or through the IT means, which is some companies in town can do that for you. One is removing it through a court order and an injunction. That's certainly something easier to do when you have identified who posted it. And in fact, it starts with a cease and desist letter. And I send them a cease and desist letter for 2 reasons. Number one is that it takes the veil of anonymity. When they see a letter from an attorney saying, I know who you are, I know why you posted it, when you posted it, where you posted it, it becomes something that say, oh, okay, they know who I am, maybe I should take it down. That could be something that can be worked out if it's easier. But if it's something if it's on YouTube, that's certainly easy to do when you're the ones who actually uploaded it. You can just take it down, but the damage has been incurred. Sometimes when they are willing to take it down, we can talk settlement. But that's down the road. So that's number one, is removing it post through the court order or an injunction or a cease and desist letter. Number two is removing it through what I call an SEO or search engine optimization companies that can do that for you in town, which is what I work with. Basically, I'm not an IT expert, but what they do is they bury the post somewhere in the 10th page of Google. It's not as easy to remove it. There's ways to remove it, but the only way to remove it completely was a court order. But in the meantime, obviously, you want it out of the sight of your friends. So you want to post it or move it to the very end of Google. And they always joke with me is, how do you hide a dead body? And you hide it in the second page of Google, because nobody ever goes to the second or third page of Google. So that's how what they do is their specialty is either put your name out there in number one as an internet marketing company. And obviously the converse is put your name and bury it somewhere in the 10th page of Google. So that's number two. And they have been effective in doing that. as a short-term solution. And when I say short-term solution, you want to do that in conjunction with your attorney because I don't know if I mentioned it earlier, defamation has a 2-year statute of limitations from the time of the publication. So, and that becomes difficult because sometimes you don't even know somebody posted something against you until 6 months down the road. So now that 2-year statute of limitations has been running since the time of that publication. There's exceptions around it, and there's ways to work around it, but generally it's 2 years on a lot of jurisdiction, to 1 year to 2 years. And so either you want to do that with a brand or IT branding company, or you want to do that with an attorney in conjunction with an attorney. So number 1 is you. Number 2 is take steps to remove it. Number 3 is to sit down and strategize with your attorney what to do next, because I think people limit themselves to defamation. And in fact, this particular client came to me and say, okay, this guy posted a nude picture of me on YouTube. Is that defamation? Well, I say not exactly, because frankly, it's an accurate depiction of you.
Right.
So it's not defamation. It's not a false statement. In fact, the reason why he has it is because he sent it. But the idea is you have to look at other causes of action, and that is really not a defamation. That's invasion of privacy, which I'll talk about in a bit. So there's a lot of causes of action that you have to go through with your attorney, and that's our job, is to see what facts fit with your particular circumstances.
Right. Just because someone did something that hurt your feelings doesn't mean it's defamation.
Not exactly, no. So that's why you want to talk to see if it's a meritable cause of action. There's different ways to do this. There's emotional distress. Basically, that's really something that's presumed, especially in something egregious such as that, or a business or trade infringement. Those are assumed damages, and you want to talk about that with your attorney. What kind of jurisdiction it falls under? That's something you want to talk about. Is there copyright infringement? Is this a trade name infringement? There's several ways to do it. It's not just defamation.
So suppose I feel like somebody defamed me or my business online. I get a screen capture of it so I have the proof that it was there, but then they voluntarily remove it before I even contact them or an attorney. So it's not online anymore. But the damage has been done because it was already up there. Is that still something that could be pursued, even though it's no longer online?
Definitely. Number 1, as soon as the second it gets posted in the internet, it's called publishing. Basically, the defamation has already occurred. Whether or not you have the damages to the extent that you have one, especially if it's an ongoing thing, well, that's subject to interpretation. Basically, you may not have as much damages if it's taken down immediately. Or it could be a forum for a settlement down the road if they are willing to take it down. Most of the time, as my experience have shown, they are not willing to take it down. In fact, especially if it's an ISP, a third-party ISP, and it makes sense because if they start taking down or accepting a request from all people to take down posts against them, then companies such as ripoffreport.com will probably not make money if they start taking it down, or Yelp if they start taking it down just because there's some request out there. It has to kind of be in the form of a court order or some way or fashion to take it down before they actually do an action against it.
Because these laws are so new, when we're talking about damages, have there been damages that have been awarded that are so great that it will deter other people? Or are we still kind of feeling out the water on, well, what sort of damages should go to people that are affected by internet defamation? Because we've never had this before.
Oh, definitely. I've had, there's cases that I've researched that have awarded significant damages. And it just goes to show you that this is such a damaging thing for somebody. And the courts have recognized it so, and the jury has recognized it so. There is one libel judgment against a blogger. And this is just a blogger. We're not even talking about it's a private person plaintiff against a blogger defendant. And basically, the jury has awarded $1.8 million. And that's a lot of money for somebody who's not a celebrity, who's not for a private person. And it just goes to show you they're taking it seriously. And there's a Texas case that has awarded $12.5 million for an internet defamation verdict. That's probably the biggest one I've seen. And that's more recent, probably in 2008. So you can see that people are more accepting of it. Damages are basically being awarded. They know and they acknowledge that it can be damaging to somebody because once it's in the internet, unless it's a court order or you work with a branding company, it's hard to take it down.
Do celebrities fall in the same category as public figures like politicians do? Because I think of websites like TMZ, places like that, where they deal in a lot of invasive information dealing with celebrities and then just throw it out there.
Unfortunately, they are held to a higher standard. And the court has said, when you place yourself out there, you have to be in a different standard as compared to a private person. And I'll talk about that in a minute after the break.
All right, we will be back with attorney Irene Williamson right after we check in with Mitch Kelly in the KDON 1 Nevada Credit Union Traffic Center.
And this update at 9:45 is brought to you by Terrible's Hotel and Casino. Come to Terrible's Hotel and Casino for the Mardi Gras Cajun Ribeye and Fried Shrimp Special. Just $9.99, 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. in the cafe. It's Mardi Gras all month long at Terrible's Hotel and Casino. Surprising number of freeway problems for the mid-morning. New injury accident in the Northwest on the Summerlin Parkway off-ramp from 95 southbound. Las Vegas Fire just responding to that one. Also on 95 northbound between Russell Road and Tropicana. That creating some big backups. Boulder Highway might be a better northbound alternate than US 95 between Russell and Trop. Also on Southern Beltway 215 eastbound at 15 connectors. That no longer causing any slowdowns. Surface Street crashes in North Las Vegas and in Camino El Dorado. Also Lake Mead at Martin Luther King. Eastbound Cheyenne past Tenaya and westbound Tropicana over I-15. Your next report's at 10 and from the KDON 1 Nevada Credit Union Traffic Center. I'm Mitch Kelly on News Talk 720 KDWN.
Drug Talk is our new 10 a.m. Sunday morning talk show hosted by drug war expert Dr. Steve Fry, author of Monumental Fiasco, Our Drug War. Ending the drug war by controlling and taxing drugs will increase Nevada's tax revenues by up to $500 million annually to rescue our educational system.
It's here, the Super Spring Home Expo, sponsored by the Review Journal at Cashman Center, February 22nd, 23rd, and 24th. See what's new and different for inside and outside your home. Hundreds of super specials with low prices available only at the show. See it all in one trip, from pools and spas to floors and doors, all at the Super Spring Home Expo. Get 2-for-1 coupons in the RJ. See you at Cashman Center, February 22nd, 23rd, and 24th.
If you have a problem with your teeth and don't know what to do, pick up the phone and call AQ 565-6000. 565-6000 for AQ Dental. That's 565-6000.
NASCAR is back. Las Vegas Motor Speedway wants to celebrate with its biggest fans.
Join us February 24th at the Cannery for great prices,
including Neon Garage Passes or Cobalt Toolkits, while you watch all the Daytona 500 action.
It's a Daytona 500 viewing party with the Las Vegas Motor Speedway at the Cannery. Enjoy great drink specials provided by Budweiser and a chance to win tickets to the Cobalt Tools 400.
Visit lvms.com/Daytona for more details.
See you February 24th.
Are you tired of fighting with your water, dry skin and hair, dingy laundry, unpleasant tastes and odors, stained sinks and fixtures? Well, now is the time to do something about your water. Hi, Alan Stock here, and I wanted to make sure I had the best water system available, so I called Connecticut over 13 years ago. My clothes are brighter, I see no more hard water stains, and the water is the best I've ever tasted. As a matter of fact, people who visit our home always ask for another glass of that delicious water. And the amazing thing is, we haven't had any service calls to fix our system. Now, the experts at Connecticut Water Systems really know their stuff and can customize a solution that's right for your home and your family. Now, the Connecticut water systems are completely different. They require no electricity, there are no customer adjustments, and they don't use a ton of salt. Connecticut Water Systems also features the longest manufacturer's warranty, and it's designed to last 30 years plus. Your local independent authorized Connecticut dealer wants to make it as easy as possible for you to try clean conditioned water in your home by offering a free trial. Go to kwater.com for more details on their free in-home trial. That's the letter K and the word water. kwater.com, and get your trial started today.
Now back to KDWN's Legal Hour. Have a legal question? Call now. 257-KDWN. That's 257-5396.
KDWN News Time, 9:48. Welcome back to the KDON Legal Hour with Las Vegas attorney Irene Williamson from Williamson Law Office, 608-4072. If you'd like to speak to Irene at her office, or if you'd like to send her an email, info@wlawoffice.com. Defamation on the internet, the Nevada defamation laws is what we are discussing today. And first of all, it's fascinating because just of the growth of the internet and the things people think they can do because it is the internet and you are anonymous, and it's just crazy.
Well, we were talking about the difference between if you are a celebrity, for example, as opposed to just somebody like me who is more of a private person. And the difference is it's not necessarily a question of invasion of privacy. I mean, celebrities go out there, put their name out there, and basically with the course that they have availed the benefits of a public forum for their own economic advantage, that basically you have to be ready to be attacked. and they are held to a higher standard of actual malice for a defamation. For an invasion of privacy, it's not necessarily a question of invasion of privacy because they're no longer private individuals, but it's called the right of publicity. When their trade name or their names or their likeness are used without their permission, they can obviously sue against somebody who's done that, especially if that posting is for economic advantage. So that's the difference between the private individual. Private individual, the courts are more likely to uphold an invasion of privacy, obviously, because there's private facts about you that a reasonable person would find objectionable, such as nude pictures of you. Even though you may have sent it to your ex-boyfriend, you did not intend it to be on the internet, obviously, or at least without your permission.
Right.
Not like a Kardashian tape that we were talking about during the break, the sex tape. I mean, that's voluntary. You put that into Google, so you better be ready for all those comments. But something like that, invasion of privacy, again, that's another arena of defamation that you have to consider. It's not just defamation. There's invasion of privacy. There's a misappropriation of trade name and likeness. If you are a business, for example, obviously, if you're a restaurant, again, the court will say, well, you have put yourselves out there for comments. So most likely, your cause of action will be a little bit different than defamation, a little bit different because most likely it's going to be an opinion, not going to be facts. So those are the things that you want to consider, you want to talk to an attorney about because there's so many things, so many strategies. My job is to strategize and see what fits for you. And when I tell my clients is that when something like this happens, there are several things to think about. Number one, and this is one of the biggest myths, is that if somebody posts a negative comment or false comment against me in the internet, I should respond and comment on that particular review, for example. And that is a definite no-no. And it might work in a newspaper setting when you can post your side of the story, and people like to post their side of the story just because it's in human nature to defend yourself. But in an online setting, we have, as I've mentioned earlier, search engine optimization. When you comment on that post, so be aware of this. If you have a negative comment against you, do not click on it. Do not post on it. Do not reply on it. And I have one client who actually sent the link to all his friends saying, see what this guy did to me. See all the false comments he's made against me. These are false. And he sent that to everyone, and everyone's been clicking on it.
So it moves it up.
It moves it up. And it moves it up in Google. It's now number one. I said, do not ever do that. You can print it as evidence. You can copy paste it for our purpose, for our litigation purpose, but do not under any circumstances click on that link. It will put it up in number one. And basically, that's not what you want to do. So do not click on it. And if you want to respond, well, talk to me first. Do not respond. But that's basically my advice. And another tip that I have for people that are in this kind of situation is that look at the context of the statement. Just because you think it's an opinion doesn't mean it is, or doesn't mean that you don't have a cause of action. The thing is, even courts don't know what fact versus opinion is, and there's ways to argue it. And in fact, there's a statement in a court ruling that I think two courts have disagreed whether it's an opinion or not. It's that John Doe is a crook. Well, crook has a lot of interpretation to it. Is a crook a criminal allegation? Is it just an opinion? Well, one court said, well, it's a criminal allegation because you're basically alleging that he's either a thief or a scammer. So that's an allegation of crime. And the other court said, well, it's just an opinion. So on that setting, you might want to talk about, strategies or ways to deal with that. So there are ways definitely to look at that.
And I'd imagine if you had a business like a restaurant or a hotel, some sort of customer service thing where you're going to get opinions where people either like you or don't like you. Mm-hmm. If you know that it's just opinions of people that are there that didn't like your soup or whatever it was, it's best just to leave those alone. But if you know or really believe that it's your competitor posting these things, then that will be something to take a course of action?
Most likely, yes. And I have, especially for mom and pop business, and I hate to say this, but obviously their business is their lifeblood. It's personal to them. Mm-hmm. So when somebody says something negative or defamatory against the restaurants, the gut reaction is to put a response. And my advice is if you want to do a response, to the extent that you want to do that, I'd rather you call the customer directly and say, how can we make it better for you? And that usually takes down the comment, and not in a way of responding it online, because that just makes the entry more popular.
Sure. And then it just keeps going back and forth. It turns into an online argument that other people then want to get involved in, that it's not their business.
Right. It becomes an online war, and I've seen that happen. It's not a good thing for your rating, especially if it's in the context of a blog, because then every time I type your restaurant's name, it comes up. The online war response comes up. And it's definitely not only is it not professional looking, but it just puts it on number one in Google.
What about truth? They always say truth is the best defense. Is truth a valid defense against someone who is being accused of defaming somebody else?
Yes, and I would say yes, because one of the elements of online or in general defamation is it has to be false. Truth is basically a defense against defamation, but as I've said earlier, there are definitely different causes of action that we can take a look at it. One of them is an invasion of privacy, like those nude pictures. They're definitely true. They're definitely your pictures, but it's not a matter of defamation. It's a matter of invasion of privacy.
What other? Because we've talked a lot about pictures. I guess some advice you would have for people, because people don't seem to think before they post or before you send things to other people. Once you send something to someone else, they can do whatever they want with it. So when you do break up and it's nasty, your boyfriend can put those naked photos you sent to him for some reason in a loving manner out there on the internet. So I would guess it's best to beware before you even do anything like that. Then you don't end up in these situations.
Exactly. And you know what? Internet and privacy is an oxymoron. I have never put them together in the same context. Once it's out in the internet, most likely it's going to be in the internet. But, just either on the other end side of things, be careful what you say, because the courts have started to recognize, even if you are a third-party provider, there is some culpability on it. And as I said before, some states have now enacted criminal penalties on online defamation, which I think is kind of crossing the line on free speech. But, there are consequences to your action. Just because you're on the internet, it doesn't mean you're anonymous. And one of the things that stops people from litigating these things is, especially in the business context or business reviews, they come to me and say, Irene, there are 10 people that have put defamatory statements against me. How do I prove damages? There's so many of them. There's called the market share liability that we talk about as attorneys. And that market share liability came about back in the 60s when there was a firework accident, I think in the East Coast, and they never knew which firework went off. But basically the court said, if you can't find who fired it, then we'll just proportionally spread the damages. So there are ways to do it. And immunity, I think a lot of people think they're immune. It's like a mob. I call it a mobosphere psychology. When you're around a lot of people saying the same thing, you think you're anonymous, you think you'll never be culpable. There are ways to get to you, unfortunately. So I always warn my clients, if you are in that kind of situation, you better look at the damages that you have. There's ways to do it. And, just because you're amongst other people doesn't mean you're immune.
Irene Williamson, attorney at law from the Williamson Law Office. If people have more questions for you, how can they get a hold of you?
608-4072 or info@wlawoffice.com. And for next week, I'll talk about HOA.
Oh, that's something that no one here ever has any opinion on.
I always have headaches with HOA, so we'll talk about that next week.
All right, Irene Williamson from the Williamson Law Office. We will talk to you again next Tuesday. Ray Lucia coming your way next on News Talk 720 KDWN.
Hi, this is Greg from Solar Universe Las Vegas. What if I could guarantee you that you could save tens of thousands of dollars simply by switching how you buy your electricity? Now, NV Energy customers can. By installing solar with Solar Universe and locking in your savings with the Solar Universe Performance Guarantee. Here's how it works. Solar Universe will install a solar system on your roof that produces power at a cheaper rate than NV Energy. Solar Universe will then guarantee the performance of your system for the next 10 years. So if your system does not produce cheaper power, as promised, I will pay you back. Our performance guarantee also includes all your insurance and maintenance for the next 10 years. What have you got to lose? Get a free solar savings estimate online at solaruniverse.com. Find out how much you could be saving with solar by getting your free solar savings estimate now at solaruniverse.com. Learn how you can pay less than what you're currently paying NV Energy for your power at solaruniverse.com. That's